Good morning. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. It is Monday, December 5th, 2016. It is now 8:30 in the morning. Like the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Selectman Havertide to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charles. Item 2, public forum, limited to 3 minutes on any agenda item. Anybody wishing to address the board? Seeing none. Move on to item 3, the approval of the minutes for November 21st, 2016, which was a regular meeting. Do I have a motion,
So
please?
moved. Second.
Made and seconded. Any additions or corrections? Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Item 4, Attorney Norb Church, discuss and take possible action on the Connecticut Water Company agreement with regard to the possible water main extension for Mulberry Point, Tuttle's Point, Long Cove Association, and an executive session will be required. So I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session, and we will come back for a vote. In the executive session, before I ask for a vote, I'm going to invite Attorney Church, Attorney Millman, and Dennis Johnson, our Health Director, and our Finance Director, Mary Jane Malavesi. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. We clear the room except for the individuals that I met.
What's that?
Okay, we need
I
a
would-
motion about executive session,
So
please?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I would-
We're still on item 4.
I would make a motion that we approve the Connecticut Water Company agreements, subject to the contingencies, provided, and authorize the first selectman to sign the agreement.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. Okay. Item 5, Health Director Dennis Johnson. Should have stayed right there. Consider and take possible action on additional scope of services within the Wright Pierce Engineering Contract Water Main Extension Project.
Thank you.
Okay, Dennis?
Pam touched basically a little briefly on this at the earlier discussion. At the November 21st Board of Selectmen meeting, the engineering service contract was conditionally approved for Wright Pierce Engineering Firm for design and construction of the water main. The contract at that time was based upon a preliminary scope of services. Just a little background on this project and how it relates to my request is, as part of the review process for the project funding, the State Health Department submits the preliminary design plans to DEEP, the Council of Environmental Quality, and they publish it in the Environmental Monitor. And they solicit comments from state agencies and the public. This process is called scoping, and depending upon the complexity, it usually results in the need for the applicant to perform additional tasks that are beyond the original proposed scope of work. So based upon the review of the scope noticing comments and the pre-application meeting that we had with DEP, there were some additional scope items and tasks that have been identified that were beyond the original recommended scope of work. The completion of these additional items will be required in order to obtain the necessary local and state permits for funding for the construction of the project. And those additional items of scope have been included in your packet. A letter from Wright Pierce identifying the 10 additional activities. So basically these have to be performed now in order to get the project in a suitable position that the State Health Department will accept it. And we have to get these items done at this point of the planning process before we go to referendum. Some of the tasks that they're asking for us to do is to prepare coastal permitting permission forms from DEP, preparing ACOE, inland wetland application documents, coastal site plan review, prepare Town of Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission application, soil management plans, conduct some geotechnical explorations, and assist the town with writing a response to Connecticut OPM regarding some of the comments from residents, comments from the DEP, and then conduct some additional inland and tidal wetland delineations. These are all extra type of activities that were not in the original scope what we had with the contract for Wright Pierce. So recommending that these additional services, as described in this December 1st, 2016 proposal from Wright Pierce, be added as an amendment to the contract for engineering for the Mulberry Point Water Main Project.
Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
Item 6, Board of Education Director of Operations and Facilities, Cliff Kernan. 6.1, consider and take possible action on an award of an RFP 1-1617, municipal-wide implementation of energy-saving measures on an energy-saving performance contracting basis for the town and school district.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Who's the gentleman with you?
This is Aldo from ECG. They're
Yeah.
our consultants for the performance contracting.
Welcome.
So we've been moving along nicely with the process for the performance contracting. We recently had a subcommittee meet with the 3 firms that had put in response to the RFP that we had put out. Those firms were Johnson Controls, Amoresco, and Honeywell. So they were all, again, vetted, and we had an extensive interview process, and the subcommittee made a recommendation to the Standing Building Committee to proceed with Johnson Controls. The Standing Building Committee then proceeded, obviously, to make the same recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Where does that put us with that recommendation? It means that we're going to look forward to moving to the next step with Johnson Controls, which is to have them come back and do really an investing-grade audit on all the buildings that we feel have potential for energy savings. There's the bulk of the Board of Ed buildings, and then there are some town buildings that they feel they can find savings and do some projects, and so that's good news for everybody. So at this point, we're just looking for the Board of Selectmen to give us the approval to move forward with Johnson Controls. There has been no cost to this point. There is no cost moving forward until we get to the end of this next step. When they get all the information proposals back to us, at that point, we'll evaluate those. And if we feel that the proposed projects are ones we want to move forward with, then we would enter into a contract with Johnson Controls, both for the town buildings and the school buildings, if everybody so agrees. One or the other can move forward separately, or they can move together as one unit. So that's where we stand right now.
And the project cost would be funded by the town?
Correct. It's funded normally, there's different ways of doing it, but the overall basis of the program is you fund the projects through the energy savings found within the projects themselves. So there's no outlay of additional cash to do the projects. So everything is funded through the energy savings.
So we're never writing a check, that's the way I understood it.
The way the financing's structured, so projects developed, they find X, I believe their preliminary proposal was around $300,000 in annual savings. So they would structure a project to pay for, basically a financing program to pay for the project in arrears with those annual guaranteed $300,000 in savings to fund things like the boiler upgrades, the controls upgrades, different equipment upgrades in the facilities.
That I understand,
Yeah.
but the 3.2 upfront funding is by the town.
Right, that would be done through typically a tax exempt municipal loan.
Right.
it goes into an escrow account, you pay for it just like a traditional capital project, and then you begin making those payments back after the energy savings start accumulating. So you're paying for the project in arrears.
And if we get a final project proposal from Johnson Controls, it would include assumptions of interest rate, assumptions of inflation, and assumptions on
Exactly.
utility costs going forward.
Right. These are built on very conservative numbers in the preliminary stages. And for the RFP, for instance, we required a 4% interest rate. Right now, most of these projects are coming in about 2.25%. So because of the long development process, you won't be going out for financing for several months, so we don't want to bank on a very low interest rate right now. We'd rather it get better.
We've already identified that our Town Hall South should be converted from oil to gas-fired burners, like we did here. So why should you get credit for that?
I'm not saying we should get credit for that, but they can definitely help you to assess that, look at what the energy savings actually are, and they're going to guarantee that the savings,
Well, I know, because we did it here. We did it on our own.
right.
But then you
So
take
why
that
should I pay
savings.
for that?
Right. Well, what you do is you take that savings from making that change and you put it back into the building to fix something else. So if you just replace the boiler and you have X savings, you take that X savings and you put in a new air handler. Now your savings is double because you have more efficient air handler and you can now have a new boiler. So it allows you to really do more work on the building based upon those energy savings.
Along those same lines, I mean, I understand it ends up being a wash with the savings and, I mean, there's a big difference between Johnson Controls and the other two bidders. You don't want to address that at all? I mean, I know it ends up being a wash, so it's not the end of the world taking the highest bidder, but other than the logic of Johnson Controls has a history with us, are they come up with some ideas that the other two haven't
The
come up
highest
with?
bidder, it's kind of counterintuitive in that the highest bidder, meaning the highest project costs, means that they identified the most annual energy savings in the.
I understand how
project.
they've manipulated that part, and I understand it, and I can accept it. It's just, I'm trying to get to, what do they know that the other two bidders don't know that they can save us?
I think it's really a knowledge, and Cliff, you could probably elaborate on this, just the knowledge of how the majority
Their
of the
history
savings.
with our system.
Correct. They know all the schools inside and out because they are presently working with us.
Can you assume from that statement then, that we've been working with them, they know the savings, and they haven't initiated any of them historically?
Well,
That we don't have it contracted with them to do that. So I have not contracted them to replace our boilers in multiple schools or air handlers in other schools or take those steps. They are here to strictly work on our controls, not the other outside pieces.
I
But
think
this
There
would,
have been issues with Johnson Controls in the past, with the controls not being perfect.
Right.
And that's putting it lightly. And those are all behind us at this point?
yes.
Okay.
As I look at these numbers, Ameresco, and maybe I'm not understanding something, but the Ameresco numbers say at the end of 15 years, we'd be 737,000 better off. The Johnson Controls, we'd be 111 better off.
right, but in lieu of that, that difference is capital equipment that Johnson Controls is investing in and paying for. So that extra 700,000 is equivalent to about $5,000 to $10,000 in annual excess savings, instead of having a little bit more cost in there to do a little bit more work. On the second page here of the report, you can see the Johnson Controls highlighted scope. They're doing more boiler upgrades, more refurbishment of unit ventilators at the Adams Middle School, at Jones School. They're doing more pneumatic controls upgrades. These are high intensity capital items that need to be upgraded to keep the buildings. in
Just
good
looking at the
operating
numbers, it's really counterintuitive.
Right.
That's why we have to depend on, the engineers, is what it comes down to, I suppose.
You know, part of what we found out during the interview, as we kind of hashed into some of these projects, and again, the projects will be expanded upon when they do the next round of auditing, but, and I'll just compare. One firm is gonna replace 2 of the boilers at Baldwin, and the other firm's only doing 1. So you see these variations, you know, of, they're getting you some energy savings, but they're only doing kind of a half project.
Less
versus a whole
investment,
project.
less savings.
Right.
Right.
Counterintuitive.
And these are all very, you know, we mentioned very preliminary numbers. In later phases, for instance, a big chunk of these savings are coming from LED lighting upgrades. A big factor, or parameter that goes into that calculation is how long the lights are on.
How much of these potential savings are based on federal and state subsidies for energy savings?
In each of the proposals, they're each projecting from the local utility, I think around $400,000 to $500,000 in utility rebates, incentives that you'd be getting back for doing this upgrade.
Any federal?
No, I don't believe so, but that's certainly something that can be looked into.
Well, I mean, I'd like to look into it while they exist, but by the same token, a few years from now, they might not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
As long as they
we're
don't
moving
depend on
forward.
them, you know, don't want to put too much weight on them at this point in time.
Right.
Any
Yes, sir.
rebates that are included in the financial projections of the project before you actually sign a contract in a few months need to be guaranteed in writing from the utility before you're taking that risk on, because, you know, we want this to be a no-risk endeavor for you.
So it's essentially in approximately 2 months, we would come back to the Board of Selectmen, Standing Building Committee, Board of Ed, and of course, Board of Finance, if they're interested, and we'd sit down and say, okay, these are really the projects that we're looking to do, this is the overall cost, and here's the savings, estimated savings, and go through everything with the different committees to make sure everybody's on board, to give you a full scope of what we're about to enter into as far as a contract. At this point, again, there's no contract, there's no cost or any out-of-pocket cost.
Who was on a committee that assessed all this, that where you come up with this recommendation?
So the subcommittee that was developed, ECG sat in on it. We had Steve Nydorf from the town, Ted Sands from the Board of Ed, myself, and then the full Standing Building Committee. So it was a large number of people evaluating.
Okay, thank you.
Again, Joe, I mentioned last meeting, if we could get Julie from the
Right.
last remaining member of the Energy Task
Yeah.
Force, who does this for a living.
I know that.
To participate, that would be.
Definitely.
That would be helpful.
Definitely.
My last question, and I understand all we're doing now is essentially selecting somebody to refine it, but how are the savings tracked and measured? Because I know we've done projects in the past where we've done lights and, you know, all of a sudden the electric bill gets merged with
Right.
the whole electric bill. It's hard to figure out whether you've actually saved money or haven't saved money.
So these projects are, I think Johnson's project in particular is made up of about 20 unique energy conservation measures, ECMs, energy upgrades. Each one of those is measured with its own unique set of protocols that are established by the federal government for how to measure and verify these savings. For instance, something like lighting is done through a calculation where they put data loggers in to monitor how long those lights are on.
Who is they?
Johnson Controls would install it, and my company oversees the install and the post and pre and
Part of
post
this
reading
cost.
of it. Exactly. So they measure what the existing wattage is, what the proposed wattage is. They take a measurement each time, and they monitor how long those lights are on, so that's how your kilowatt hour savings come from. And then it's applied to your rate structure of what that existing electricity cost is. In the case of the energy management system, something more dynamic, not as simple as a calculation as lighting. They do a continuous measurement and verification, so it's a similar idea in that they do a measurement of key parameters, but it's a continuous measurement. So through the energy management system, through the servers and all the computer equipment, they're going to measure and verify and trend all of the existing set points in the classrooms, in the major spaces, in the facilities. Those So they're on the hook to continuously measure and verify and make sure that those set points, the temperatures in the classrooms are maintained at 68, 70 degrees when they're occupied. And then when they're unoccupied in the middle of the night, they can drop down. And that's on them. The onus is on them to prove to you
And
that.
that's fine, that's great for tracking and regulating that type of thing, but to Gary's point,
So,
who's tracking the town writing the check? Is our
So-
check, in 2017
Right.
going to be
so.
where it's supposed to be in 2019?
So essentially, first, as Aldo was saying, each measure will be evaluated separately, depending on how the best measurement is to be, to verify it. So again, he just mentioned two different types, but it could be boilers, it could be something else. So each measure will be verified through whatever predetermined system we did at the end put into the contract. And then ECG is contracted with us to ensure that Johnson Controls is doing the proper part of their verification for up to 3 years. We can go longer, and that, again, can be put into the contract. Right now, average contract's about 3 years. So they verify that Johnson Controls is doing everything that they're supposed to be doing with the M&V. And then they give us the approval to write the check saying, yes, everything, this is correct, that you are getting those savings, they are doing the right calculations, and they are verifying and measuring everything appropriately.
And it's important to keep in mind that the energy savings that they're guaranteeing to you are done in units of energy. So they're going to say that you're going to save this many gallons of oil, for instance.
So we
And-
might not be saving dollars, but quote unquote, we're saving gallons of oil.
Right,
Or
and that's,
kilowatts or
and that's the
whatever.
most, no one can predict where the rates are gonna go, whether they're gonna double or triple, but in 2 years, after the project's been implemented, you'll always be able to see, had you never done the project, I would have spent this many more 100 or 200 gallons of oil at this particular school.
Right.
And that's what protects you.
So we're trying to reduce usage, and along with that, obviously, we reduce the cost based upon today's.
Well, you may or may not
Right.
reduce the cost depending on what the rate
Correct.
is. But
Right.
that's the fairest way.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
But, so you're asking us to approve Johnson Control here?
Correct, to move to the next step.
But going back to what Charles just said, I'd like to see a proposal on how they're gonna account to us.
And that will all come out, remember that next meeting I said we're gonna have?
Contract.
That will
Right.
all be
Okay, because
presented at that point. in time.
going back to my early days on the Board of Finance, and I think you alluded to this, we had terrible experience with Johnson Control. Now, you weren't around.
Correct.
I don't know where you were, but I'm not gonna blame
What
you.
was it?
But you asked the chairman of the Board of Finance, and I think the chairman of the Board of Education wasn't even involved then.
Right.
We had, we didn't have a good experience with Johnson Control.
That was,
You heard that.
I think so. They tried to go into a performance contract with Johnson Controls back in, I think it was the eighties maybe.
The town got screwed,
Right.
excuse my
And-
language.
And just to bring something up, what performance contracting was then is totally different than what it is now.
And I heard that story before, okay?
So before
So
they used to.
I'm a little bit
right,
leery with Johnson Control.
Right.
So before I approve that, going
Or
into
when you
again,
put together the contract.
yeah, I'd like to
see
see
where
some.
we're
I'd
going.
like to
Yeah.
see some more of how they're gonna account
Correct.
for the savings.
Again, today was more just to move to the next phase. Again, that we want to have a separate meeting with everybody to bring them all up to speed, to
Mhm.
answer these questions, and get a little more in-depth.
Mhm.
But to get in all those details today, when we're still a good step and a half out, didn't make sense at this point.
I would just,
Cliff, the town has no obligation to go forward in that,
Correct.
based on their vote today.
Correct. So when we get through this next step and they do the audit and they come back to us and we sit down, we still have full control of saying, we don't want to do any of it. And we can walk away with no cost to us.
all we're saying though, when you bring that back to us, try to have something in there to protect us. Because I think this board and the Board of Finance are going to
the measurement and the
Lot of red
guarantees
flags,
are,
yeah.
Exactly.
are of concern.
Exactly.
That's the number one priority of my firm. That's one of, a lot of people have bad taste in their mouths from
Right.
performance contracting in
Mhm.
years past, and that's because of the lack of true measurement verification. A lot of the contracts at that time were based on what's called stipulated savings, basically a pre-agreed calculation. There was no actual trending of data or measurement verification.
All we did was pay bills and we didn't get
Right.
the results.
And we don't want that to happen again, for sure.
I don't.
And that's part of why we brought the ECG in, is because they do this on a regular basis. They have that experience, and I think they can help protect us with moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what do we need for us at this point?
Pharaoh is iron, but what does Moss? I don't know.
I guess we need a motion to select Johnson Controls as the contractor to move forward with,
That's what it looks like.
Fair contract.
to prepare a contract for ultimate.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye, okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So all we're doing is preparing a contract, if we understand that.
Well, we're preparing to move, forward with an audit.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 7, Fire Chief Charles Hershaft, discuss and take possible action on award of bid 10-1617, underground water tank storage and installation. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
How you doing?
We did put the 30,000 gallon underground water tank for fire protection out to bid. It was bid number 10-1617. The low bidder was Venuti Enterprises. They installed numerous tanks in the area, not in Guilford, but in the neighboring towns. And I recommended the board that we award the contract to Venuti Enterprises in the amount of $114,000.
And this is going on,
Podunk Road.
Geez, why do we recommend the guy that bid 260,000?
Immediate.
How do you get such variation in bidding?
Some people want it, some people don't.
I guess.
I know, 3 times as much.
Yep. Unbelievable. So moved.
Second. Second.
I would move that we approve bid number 10-16-17 for underground tanks.
To Venuti.
To Venuti, yes, for $114,000.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Just gotta make a quick round. You go ahead.
Item 8, environmental planner Kevin McGee, consider and take possible action on Sound View Road coastal access easement maintenance agreement and send to Planning and Zoning Commission for mandatory referral under Connecticut General Statute 8-24 and set the town meeting date of Tuesday, January 3rd, 2016, 8:15 a.m. at the Guilford Town Hall. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning. As part of a planning and zoning approval on Soundview Road, there's a Metro Pooch was approved for development of a facility on Soundview Road, just south of Algonquin Industries, right along the salt marsh there. As part of their development, they're required to, since they're putting a non-water dependent use next to a coastal feature and a navigable stream river there, of Sluice Creek there, of a conservation, or actually a public access agreement they're required to with DEP, or actually as part of DEP regulations, they're required to have a coastal access agreement. It's asked that the town of Guilford retain that easement and protection for the property owner there. This easement would provide a walkway from Soundview Road to,
Now, they were before P and Z already.
they're
correct?
already for P and Z for the, their coastal area management approval, but not for the referral.
Okay.
So it needs to go back to them. But you can see their development and then their coastal easement areas along the south side of their property going out to the marsh. They'll put a bench at the end of it. It'll be available for the public to walk, view the marsh. And a good part of their facilities there. They can walk their dogs out there and enjoy.
So they went to inland wetlands,
It's
right?
not required inland wetlands
Not-
since it's a tidal marsh. It's so
Okay.
planning and zoning gets the tidal marshes.
Okay.
There's the easement document which has been prepared and reviewed by Pam, which is part
Yep.
of your package there. And
We have that.
Is there parking there?
there's location for 2 parking spots for the public, so it's just not a neighborhood thing. Anybody can drive down, park, go birding, go nature observing, whatever you want to do. Take photographs, paint, whatever you want to do back there. The easement does have some restrictions, which include car top launching of kayaks and boats and stuff like that. So it's pretty much just a walking easement.
Which prohibit those.
Yeah, prohibits that activity. Yeah, correct.
Oh,
I mean, that's something.
what
that-
about maintenance of it?
The maintenance is on the requirement of the property owner there. The only thing the town needs to do is just verification on a regular basis that they're following up on their requirements of the easement document. So it's a,
Okay, so we're asked to set a town meeting date
and referral to planning and zoning.
and refer to planning and zoning. Okay. Do I have a motion?
In order, is it refer
Yep,
to planning and zoning prior to the town meeting? Or
Correct.
does
Yes.
that make-
Correct.
yes, that's first. Okay,
And it was through land acquisition, did review it last Thursday night, and they had no concerns regarding the project or taking on the easement.
I'll move it, and the public hearing date is January 3rd, 8:15 a.m. Town meeting, I'm sorry, January 3rd.
okay, first of all, let's take the referral. You want to make that motion?
Yes, I'll move
Okay.
that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye. So moved, it's passed. And the town hearing date, you want to make that too, Joe?
Mhm.
The town meeting date of January 3rd, 2017, at 8:15 in the town hall. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye, so, motion passes. Thank you very
You're
much,
welcome.
Kevin. Okay, we're up to appointments and resignations. Item 9, 9-1, act on a recommendation to reappoint Ted Sands to the Economic Development Commission for a term to expire November 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second, but a question.
Sure.
Ted's an elected member of a board.
Mhm.
Can he sit on a commission?
Yeah. he's
Okay.
been-
We can't sit on a
We
commission.
can't, we can't.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Act on a recommendation to move Mark Larkins from an alternate to a regular member of the Public Works Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire May 31st, 2020.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9.3, act on appointment of Bernie Lombardi to the Building Code of Appeals to fill a vacancy for a term to expire October 15th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Does that give us a quorum yet?
Yes, it does. We're all set. Act on a resignation received from Steve Copps from the Economic Development Commission and Land Acquisition Commission with regrets. All those in favor? Oh, wait, motion?
Motion, aye. So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
With
With
regrets.
regret.
Act 9.5, act on a resignation received from Chip Doran for the Standing Fields Committee.
So moved.
With regrets. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, request for the use of town properties, we have 10-1 to 10-3.
I would move that we approve 10-1 through 10-3, 2 signs and the placing of a menorah on the green.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, got that in just in time, I think. Correspondence, building officials' monthly report is in your packet. Committee reports, we already talked about the senior tax relief, so I have no there. Old business, and then tree lighting ceremony went well, we beat the rain.
We did.
Good job by Park and Rec people. Brian did a nice job overseeing the event the other night. And,
Many of the stores were full, so
Yeah.
it was a good evening.
Yeah, and thank you to the Marine Corps for being there. And also, Rick and Steve, they had the foresight to put more lights on the green, but I hate to say it that way. Lights on the tree. Right? It went well. New business, I don't have any.
You want to mention Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if tape will get on in time, I never know. But today's the 5th, but Wednesday the 7th, the town will take part in the Pearl Harbor ceremony down at the marina. Is it 10:30, Carl? I believe it is.
Yes.
10:30, which is sponsored by the VFW and the American Legion. All who can, would like to attend, I encourage everybody to attend if they could. Again, it's 10:30 at the town marina, December 7th.
The 75th anniversary.
And it is the 75th anniversary. Thank you. Public forum, limited to 3 minutes on any item. Don't see any public left. Chase them all away. 16, discuss and take possible action on an appeal from a resident in accordance with section 247-31, right of appeal, Article 8, elderly tax, Article 7, elderly tax relief program. An executive session will be required.
I would move we go into executive session.
Okay, and I'm going to
Second.
invite the assessor and his assistant. Okay. Mike, you will be back for a vote.
Move we come out of executive session.
Second.
Purposes of a vote.
Motion made and seconded?
Oh.
Okay. Gary?
We're gonna vote on coming, we're gonna vote on it, right?
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any further business to come before the board? Seeing none, take a motion to adjourn? All those
Second.
in favor? Aye. Right, thank you all.